You're listening to the Jiu Jitsu Lou podcast, and I'm Lou Temlett. I know you're having a good day because either you've been on the mats, considering getting on the mats, or maybe you're wondering whether there is still a place for you. I'm so happy you're here listening or watching this episode. Please don't tap out before the end. When you've been a martial artist your whole life, start training Jiu Jitsu. I'd like to welcome Ellie Osborne to my podcast. Hi Ellie, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. Thank you for joining me. Whilst the intro feels like you've been training your whole life, martial arts, and then you started training jiu-jitsu, we both work in marketing. We know that's a little bit of a spin. Your whole life isn't from birth. So let's start with your introduction to martial arts, Ellie.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, I'm not quite that. I wasn't born kicking and tapping people out. But yeah, so I started martial arts when I was 13 years old. I started kickboxing. I actually used to do a bit of boxing with my uncle, but at the time, women weren't necessarily doing so much of that. So I started kickboxing. I think J-Lo or someone was doing kickboxing at the time, and someone suggested doing that.
Yep.
But I actually loved it and carried it on all through my teens, and then into my 20s I started doing karate.
Yeah.
Did that for 12 years, and then I started jiu-jitsu in my late 30s. So I've been around the block a bit.
Okay, let's kind of review back to those teenage years, starting in martial arts and boxing.
Yeah.
Were any of your friends doing boxing and martial arts back in those days?
No, none. I was the only girl at one point when I was kickboxing for quite a while. Then an older girl, she was early 20s, joined and became my little. She took me under her wing. We sort of became buddies, but no. And it was interesting because recently I was talking about sports at school when I was younger. I mean, girls weren't even allowed to play football when I was at secondary school. We had to just do aerobics and netball, let alone go and do martial arts. So it's very different to how it is today, which is a good thing.
Yes, it is. It is a good thing. But we will just reminisce for those of us that, were segregated to sports of the sexes back in the 80s and 90s. I think I always managed to infiltrate the boys' group and play football in the playground, all but with a tennis ball or something silly. What was your kind of before any of those structured sports, what was your vibe in terms of activity?
So I think at school I actually didn't want to do the activity. I wanted to do the football. I wanted to do a different range. I didn't want to be sat there. I'm not very coordinated, ironically, having to do martial arts. I didn't want to do aerobics every week. I wanted to do something, but I couldn't find that within school and PE. So there was a desire to be sporty and to do sports, but it wasn't offering me what I wanted. And then I found that through martial arts. And I think I just liked the intensity that martial arts offered. And that was the vibe.
I think there's some element of frustration, certainly through kind of growing up and towards the teenage years, whether that's finding out who we are, what we're interested in, kind of friendship groups and all of those other things. But I like the fact that you've mentioned the intensity. There are very few things that are high intensity as a child that we can engage in, or we were able to engage in back in the day. Certainly I started my gym career and lifting weights in my teenage years. But before that, there was nothing that quite hit the mark. Even dancing, there was nothing high impact, high intensity, or anything that really challenged us physically. But it does sound like the martial arts for you hit the spot with the kickboxing and other things.
Yeah, definitely. I'd also tried dancing. I was terrible at dancing. I did go to dance lessons before kickboxing. I was always at the back. And I just thought, this isn't me. This doesn't fit with, what I want
Yeah.
to do. So dancing stopped, and then the kickboxing. It was just that intensity and the challenge of it, and I just
Yeah.
used to just love that aspect of it.
Yeah. Has there been a time in your life where you haven't had that intensity, or you've kind of dropped away from high impact sports, um, and found something else, something else, something more, maybe more creative or more academic, or something else?
No, not really. I have, apart from when I've had my children, and then anyone who's had children know high intensity sometimes in kickboxing after you've had children don't always mix very well with the pelvic
Yeah.
floor. But no, apart from, taking a little bit of a step back when I've had children,
Yeah.
and what have you, but I just can't imagine actually um, my life without some form of martial
Yeah.
arts or
No.
some sort of physical tough activity to do.
Yeah. No, that's good, and it sounds like it's something that's going to carry you through, for many years to come. So,
Hopefully.
you're a purple belt. You
Yeah,
started out in your 30s,
yeah.
training Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. What made you switch? What was the catalyst to get you from those other martial arts to Jiu Jitsu?
It was just, to be honest, it was just a really chance conversation with someone. So I'd been doing karate for quite a while. That actually, as I was getting older, was taking a bit of a toll. Kickboxing and karate, just the physicality of being punched all the time.
Yeah,
Um, and then a friend of mine, they were opening jiu-jitsu clubs, said, why don't you come try jiu-jitsu? I'd done a little bit of judo work in karate and thought, oh God, I'm not going to like that. So I went along, but I did absolutely love it. And I didn't have a black eye at the end, which was great. So yeah, really enjoyed it, and then it just sort of went from there. And it was quite nice to do something different that was still within martial arts, but something different
yeah.
to what I'd done for a really long time. So yeah, that was the kind of the new challenge and fun aspects of it.
I just want to know why always martial arts, because um, for me, I only got involved with martial arts in my mid 40s and
Mm.
hadn't known it apart from. I always usually reference my late mother watching Jackie Chan movies, and she was always into the martial arts movies. It just didn't
Yeah.
interest me before that point. But is there anything else that you could have done, you wish you had done, or might be thinking about doing that is not martial arts?
So I do run it. So I do run, and I'm training for a marathon at the moment. I think again it's that extreme physicality aspect of it. Um, but yeah, I think for me, I was always drawn to martial arts because I feel when I was younger, it always felt like something my mum and dad were very anti, don't do this, you're going to get hurt, get something that I was always told I couldn't do. I
Yeah.
think maybe it's the rebel in me was like, I am going to do it. So yeah, I'm going to prove you wrong. And that's kind of stuck with me maybe over the years.
Nice. I like hearing that, when we're told as kids that we shouldn't do this, we can't do this, or don't do that, you're going to get hurt. And other people are projecting their fear and their risk on us. But actually, it sounds like you found your own voice and your own kind of physical well-being by choosing martial arts.
Yeah.
Does that echo through anywhere else in your life, career, parenthood, anything else?
um, Yeah, I mean, I always like encourage. I've got two children of my own. Encourage them to find their own path and find, what they enjoy in their niche. And it might not be my cup of tea,
Yeah.
but really encourage them to find and explore as well. Try different things.
Mm.
Um, I haven't stuck to one martial art for years on end. I have tried different things, and I don't see that there's a problem with that. So yeah, I'm just encourage people to try different things and see what works for you.
Okay, you mentioned about trying to encourage your children to do things, even if they don't quite sit with you. Have they ever chosen to do anything that you really didn't agree with, Ellie?
Well, I'm going to be honest. My 17-year-old, her favourite thing is to bed rot. So she just loves it. She's a typical teenager, and yeah, that's one of her favourite pastimes, which drives me insane. So I'm just like, come on, let's get up and do stuff with life. But yeah, a lot of teenagers are doing that these days.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah. Mine, I've only got one in the teenage years, and I'm kind of getting them up, getting them out, and training jujitsu. Do you have any advice for us parents of teenagers or forthcoming teenagers to avoid the bed rot?
Um, no, because I've got a 17-year-old, as I said, who does not want to do anything else. She did used to do karate with me when she was younger, which was great. And then she became, what happens to a lot of teenage girls is she hit the teenage years, and self-consciousness,
Yeah.
not actively participating in sports at school, and it all just sort of went downhill. But it's a really common problem amongst teenage girls. Once they hit those teenage years, participation in sports really declines.
Yeah.
And I've done my absolute best to try and get her doing things, but yeah, there's a lot. She's very self-conscious, and it's been a challenge, to be honest.
Yeah. I kind of feel for you, being the mum of a teenager, and knowing that us girls, even the lads, have kind of gone through the feeling of self-consciousness and just all of those things that make us want to stay at home and not be out in society. It's a real challenge. Did you ever experience any of those things? I mean, obviously you've always had martial arts, but
Yeah.
does any of that behaviour kind of echo? And what did you do to overcome some of those self-conscious feelings, if that was a thing for you?
Yeah, I think it was the environments that I trained in. I didn't feel any different to anyone else training. So
Yeah,
even though, when I started kickboxing, as I said, I was often the only girl, and I was, a young girl as well in the room, in adult classes with, but I never felt that I was really any different to
yeah,
any of the others.
yeah,
And I think that really helped. I didn't actually
mm,
really feel self-conscious. I just felt part of the team.
yeah,
So I think culture and where you train sort of has a lot to do with that as well.
yeah. I think that's quite interesting. You saying that you didn't feel self-conscious, and the sense of being included and feeling like everyone's on a kind of level playing field, even though there might be hierarchies in terms of number of years training and various other things in jiu-jitsu. It does feel quite like an inclusive space that we can
Yeah.
all be part of.
Yeah.
I've certainly worked in corporate environments where hierarchy is, we've tried to kind of squish down and make everyone feel included and equal, and all of those great things. But sometimes it does happen when we're kind of out of that.
Yeah.
But it very much sounds like potentially there's some mindset going
Mm.
on as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, let's carry on with the mindset piece
Yeah.
for you, because before we started recording, you'd mentioned some mental health, definitely not challenges, but the
Yeah.
positivity around jiu-jitsu and mental health. And I know so many of us share the positive aspects of our well-being because we are training jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. 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 So for me, it's just the thing I love about jiu-jitsu is that if I can have the most terrible day, and then I go to jiu-jitsu and I don't actually get a chance to think about the terrible day that's happened.
Yeah,
Often it can clear that out because I'm too worried about, am I about to get subbed, or I've got a horrible knee on belly that's like, how can I get out of this?
yeah,
And for me, that's like the real benefit. And also just as a mum and a working mum, just that little bit of
yeah,
me time and
yeah,
escapism from being everything to everyone else all the time. for me, that really has been like a massive positive of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I would echo that, with it being, the me time for us busy mums, parents, working, looking after kids, whatever other responsibilities we have. It's purely selfish in a way that we're taking ourselves off, in a good way. We're taking ourselves off to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
I was training this week, and I was like, there was an easy out. I was like, the kids are at home. I could easily go, actually, I'm not going to train. I'm not going to take us to jiu-jitsu. But there's a routine that
mm,
gets locked in, the packing up the kit, the process of getting ready. We kind of know where we are. There's a nice little routine that we can all get ourselves into
yeah,
to get ourselves off to train.
yeah,
And if we then take away all those external things, the stuff of the day, and just do the thing that we always do and we know how to do. And if we step on the mats, usually we stay for the whole class. I know sometimes I haven't, but when we're there, and we're there
yeah,
wholeheartedly for
yeah.
very good reasons.
Yeah. I think sometimes as well it's letting go of the mum guilt. For some
Yeah,
of us mums, that you feel a bit guilty for having, like as you said, it feels a little bit selfish sometimes, and the guilt
mm,
can sometimes creep in, and you think, oh, am I doing the right thing? But yeah, I think it's great to set examples to your children and show them that actually it's really
yeah,
important that you have
yeah.
your time, and they see you doing sports and what have you,
Mm.
encourages them for the future.
Yeah, absolutely, for the future, even if it doesn't necessarily impact them now.
Mm.
We're both in our 40s, we're
Yeah.
both still very active. And I
Mm.
think, I don't remember my mum being so active in her 40s.
No.
She was busy helping the community and doing lots of incredible things, but sports and martial arts, no, apart from watching Jackie Chan, of course. Um, but I think, we've now come into a kind of place in culture and society where, us women in our 40s, 50s, and 60s are more active than we've ever been. I'd like to kind of, find some research, but I generally feel like there's so many of us making the most of life now, which is just amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I can just remember my mum doing step aerobics. That's all I remember. But I do think, there's been, so many more women are starting sports later in life. Like you mentioned that you started jiu-jitsu in your 40s.
Yeah,
I see so many women starting sort of, they're not teenagers, starting in their 30s, 40s, 50s. And I think that's amazing. And
yeah,
at times I have questioned, like, have I got a place in jiu-jitsu a little bit
yeah,
as I've got older? Um, but I do think we do have a place, and there's a place for everyone
yeah,
in jiu-jitsu.
yeah,
It might just look different for some of us versus
yeah,
others.
yeah, absolutely. We will come back to that in a moment. This episode is sponsored by Ascend Jiu Jitsu. Ascend Jiu Jitsu is a professional academy teaching high-level jiu-jitsu in a welcoming and structured environment for beginners, experienced practitioners, kids and families. The team at Ascend help you develop short-term attention into long-term achievement. Feeling safe, supported and respected from the very first day you start and throughout your jiu-jitsu journey is their priority. We all want to be on the mats for longer, and with Ascend Jiu Jitsu, you'll do just that through reward and trust with exceptional leadership and coaching. When you're ready to start your journey, head over to ascendjj.co.uk and follow at ascend_JJ over on Instagram and see what training there feels like. This is the Jiu-Jitsu Lou podcast with me, Lou Temlett, coming to you from the UK. One of the things that would really help this show grow is by you liking and subscribing on whichever platform you are listening or watching on. And as always, check out the clips on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Today, I'm having a conversation with Ellie Osborne. Ellie, you're a purple belt, which we have already mentioned. But at the beginning of the show, as you've just kind of alluded to, there's sometimes we feel like there's not always a place for us,
Mm.
whether that's because of our own physical well-being, mental well-being, or just the fact that, you know, sometimes we're still in a minority in the jiu-jitsu classes. Talk to us about your kind of personal journey and why you might not have felt, um, you know, like it's always a place for you.
Yeah, I think for me, so for us older ladies go through the
We are not
perimenopause.
older ladies. Come on, we're still young.
Oh, I don't know, I felt pretty old recently. um, the perimenopause actually, well, it started when I was about 40, 41, and that hit me like a bus.
Yeah,
And I started questioning everything in life. Am I still sane? What's going on?
yeah,
But for the first time, you know, as we've talked about, I did jiu-jitsu when I was younger. I, I was fine as a teenager, but for the first time, I actually did start to feel a bit self-conscious.
yeah,
I did start to feel like at times sort of, well, I knew why I was doing it, but you know, how long am I going to be able to do this for? And I just, the self-doubt just massively hit me.
yeah,
Um, and I did have to get myself through that, and it was challenging. And I think part of that was like shifting hormones, changes in my mood,
yeah,
changes in my physicality, how I felt, what I was able to do. Um, the symptoms from the perimenopause like massively have impacted me, and I've had to adjust my training to
yeah,
manage those. And yeah, I just thought, oh, and then you're rolling with people like, I'm not old enough to be your mum. Sometimes, and I did a few times. I just thought, right, what am I? You know, is there a place when you are the minority, like older women? Like I know
yeah,
there's lots of us that train, but we are the minority when it comes to jiu-jitsu. Yeah, I did question like,
yeah.
oh God, like yeah, I felt self-conscious. I felt yeah for the first
Mm,
time. Yeah,
yeah. I just want to echo the feeling of, you know, we're old enough to be your mum. Um, we and I kind of we have to kind of check ourselves that yes, we might be old enough to be your mother. However, we're still going to give you a hard time if we're
yeah,
able to. Um, but
yeah,
equally, they're going to give us a hard time.
yeah,
I often feel like the kind of dynamic between, you know, the younger individuals and the older individuals, kind of you sit back and go, are they giving us a hard time because they're subconsciously giving their parents a hard time, or are we giving, you know, anyway?
I
Um,
always like to surprise them when they think, and they're like, "Oh, actually, that was I wasn't expecting that." So yeah,
it's like when you play tricks on your kids and you've hidden behind a corner in the house and then you jump out on them, surprise them. None of us have ever done that, have we? Uh, okay. Let's talk about some of those perimenopause symptoms. I'm
yeah,
still very much in denial, but what sort of, from a female perspective and from a male perspective, what sort of things are we, you know, do we notice,
yeah,
and can we kind of help each other with to get through that time and space in life?
yeah. For me, the first things that happened for me was night sweats. So just absolutely crazy sweating
Yeah,
most of the night was the first symptom that really started, and then it kind of snowballed a little bit from there. Brain fog. My periods became irregular. It was just, yeah, it just sort of within a couple of years, I
yeah,
gained weight. You know, I had never really had to worry about my weight before. Gained about 2 stone in a year, which was unusual for me.
yeah,
Um, and it was, yeah, it was just that real kind of what the hell's going on? And
mhm,
everyone's different with the perimenopause and menopause. And
yeah,
I'm quite, well, everyone tells me I was quite young when it started. Turns out that I've got younger sisters, they're going through the same thing now, they're in their early 40s.
yeah,
Um, for me, that's when it started, and I think it's very individual.
yeah,
But you know, every woman is going to go through this,
yeah.
and so that is one guarantee that every woman is going to go through this stage of life.
Yeah. How were you able to support yourself? and have, the kind of GP, or were there any external people that were there to help you? But equally, how can others, maybe guys, partners, friends, how can they kind of support? Because this jiu-jitsu journey is not a solo thing. Yes,
No.
it's a solo sport, but when we join a jiu-jitsu club, it's about having that awareness of others. Certainly it is for me, that we're sharing the same space.
Yeah.
We're kind of, there's sweat everywhere, and there's like, we're getting kind of down with it, and
Yeah.
wanting to kind of be there. But actually sometimes some of us can feel quite emotional. Some of
Yeah.
us can kind of feel a bit confused, or certainly when the coach has explained something, and if they're formal enough to go 1, 2, 3, clap, then your whole memory just disappears.
Yeah.
And even the guys, I often train with other fellow parents. I'm going, what did we just learn? You go first. You go first. You always know when someone says, why don't you go first? But who helped you through some of that
Yeah.
journey, Ellie?
So multiple people. So definitely involved with the GP, and using HRT, which has helped me with some of the symptoms. I'm quite frank with my husband. He's very tolerant and patient, and I've just been really frank and honest with him at times, and just said I call it meno rage. I'm like, I'm in a really bad mood today.
Yeah,
I'm just warning you now. I'm in a really bad mood. So if I don't mean to be an a-hole or anything, but I'm
yeah,
in a bad, and he's actually really understanding. He's, my sleep has been massively impacted, and he's like, I know you haven't slept well.
yeah,
I know that you've been up like since about 1 o'clock in the morning, so don't stress. So he's been great.
yeah,
And then the training. I just, I'm really lucky. I've got really lovely training partners. They probably think I'm, I don't know, so forgetful. But I'm just, they're lovely, and I do feel sorry. I think sometimes do they sit there and think, oh, don't stick me with her, she's going to be like, what are we doing? But they're not. They're really nice, and I just say, I'm really like, what, remind me what we're doing again. And
yeah,
sometimes it's better than others. The brain fog has been an issue for me at
yeah,
times. But as you said, I know lots of people get shown a technique and then you're like, what the hell are we doing? So
yeah.
that's not uncommon. But
No,
for me, with the fatigue and the tiredness that came with the perimenopause, it's just been like, it's been a bit of a
yeah,
slump at times. But being kind to myself is what I've tried to do as well, and just
yeah,
acknowledge that,
yeah,
yeah, it's a bit tough at times, but we're still doing it. As you've said before in a previous episode, there's plenty of life still in me, and I've got,
yeah.
I'm still young, so
We are all still young. For me, it's about a mindset. If we can physically continue to do these things, our bodies have a way of being able to continue to do those things. Yes, we have to be kind and gentle to ourselves, but there's jiu-jitsu allows for everybody to do the things, no matter the size, no matter the shape or the height, because I'm not particularly tall, although I wore some quite high heels today and I felt very much taller than a lot of people. But that's not on the mats, of course.
and there's so many health benefits for women, and when you get to your
Yeah,
40s, 50s, to actually do exercise and do
yeah,
strength training, and
yeah,
to do sports and stuff is like real big health benefits that help with the symptoms
yeah.
of perimenopause. So we need to keep going.
I love it. I love it. Um, Ellie, you're also a runner. I mean,
Mhm.
why did you start running? It feels like for me, it is certainly not an option. The knees don't feel ready. But why did you start running?
So I've run off and on for years, not always consistently. I actually started running a bit when I was doing kickboxing, because running was always the cardio go to.
Yeah,
And then I think, again, it's like hard things that I like to do to myself. I don't massively enjoy running, to be honest,
Yeah.
and that's why I make myself do it.
Yeah.
And then I think it's just evolved the last few years. There's been like running challenges that I've been encouraged to like join in on, that I've been like, oh, okay. I think it's just proving to myself sometimes that I can still do it and can do
Yeah.
it. And again, as I touched on earlier, is that physical extreme maybe for me that I
Yeah.
actually secretly enjoy.
Nice. I just want to shout out to everyone that goes out running. I'm kind of bowing down to you, like a lowly blue belt to an experienced purple belt. I just want to say you're amazing, all of you, for running. And I have heard, I haven't quite taken it on board yet, that running is, like you say, the best cardio for not kind of gassing out during a round.
Yeah, well, I'm still gassing out. So
You're not supposed to say that, Ellie.
there's definitely some gassing out still happening. But I have I definitely do see an improvement. I know I've seen some debate on running and the best cardio for jiu-jitsu, just do more jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
But, for me, running has helped, yeah.
Good. I'm pleased to hear that. There may be some time before I'm ready to do another hard thing that is running. It's not out the question. I did used to run in my teenage years. Maybe I might return to running. I don't know. Um, so you're a purple belt now. Let's kind of
Yeah,
revert back to
okay.
jiu-jitsu. How has your progression been? Because you've been training for 7 years.
Yeah.
Has it been an easy progression through learning?
I'd say I'm a slow learner. I think, life gets in the way. There's definitely been life events that has impacted my training at times.
Yeah.
And I'd say when those menopausal symptoms really hit, my training did most definitely suffer.
Yeah.
I've learned to kind of get myself together since then and really be more positive in the mindset with it, because I did feel a bit sorry for myself at some points, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's definitely been a journey, and there have been some sticking points, but I'm teaching women's classes now, and I think that's been giving me like a really good new focus.
Yeah.
I've competed before, but I haven't recently, so I want to get back into competing again. So yeah, it's just a bit of an up and down journey, but I think that's always the way with jiu-jitsu and martial arts in general.
Yeah, especially as you've got a number of years, a number of decades even in martial arts. This isn't the short game. This is now, or however long we've been training for a very long time.
Yeah,
And it's just about taking it steady and just giving ourselves an easy time when life feels a bit difficult, things get in the way. But equally, we know where the mats are. We know where our nearest club or kind of academy is, and we know that we can, message on the DMs and get ourselves to a class.
yeah. And I think if you can get a nice kind of, when you go, and for me, there's a few other women that I enjoy training with, and we sort of encourage one another to get on the mats, and most of them are mums as well, so they know like the struggles that we face. That I think that really really helps as well.
Yeah, I have been supported by a number of mums that have kind of gone, come on, you need to go, that you never regret training. So I'm so grateful to those women that have reached out to me to encourage me to keep going. But I think we all owe it to our friends to encourage them as well when they don't turn up for a session or two. Who
Yeah,
knows?
definitely.
Do you have? I'm pleased that you're coaching women's classes now, Ellie. What are you kind of getting out of that for the next generation, or even fellow training partners in running and coaching women now?
I just really want to encourage other women to do jiu-jitsu, and see that, I think it does make a difference when you're first starting to see other women doing jiu-jitsu as well. So for me, it's really just about being a friendly face in a male-dominated sport, showing that there's other women that are training, and for them to sort of learn from other women and encourage that female community within a club, because I do think that really encourages women to stay with it. So that's what I see, my role as being kind of a bit of an ambassador for jiu-jitsu, getting them started. And I think what we see is that a lot of women will start with women's only classes, and as their confidence builds, move into the mixed classes, and then that's great. But it gives them that opportunity, if they want it, to start with a female only environment.
How do you kind of encourage other women? What's your only because you're in a marketing background? How can clubs encourage more women, aside from having great ambassadors like yourself, bringing women into the club?
I think it's tricky. I personally think, telling stories of everyday women doing jiu-jitsu and the benefits that they gain from it, because we're not all going to be world-class champions and what have you. But we still, we gain a lot from it, and so I think really telling those very human female stories, this is what we've gained from it, really helps. And I do think like having the women's only classes just creates that. You'll come into a safe environment. You're going to be supported by other women. Can help break down some of the barriers to it. But sometimes a lot of people just don't even know what jiu-jitsu is. A lot of my friends are like, "What's this?"
The word is unknown still. So I think it's sharing what jiu-jitsu is primarily, but equally sharing our stories. I know some days I've gone, I really don't want to do jiu-jitsu, I absolutely hate jiu-jitsu, what am I doing? But that doesn't last for very long, and I think having those transient moments of feeling, but actually the underlying benefits are great for mental well-being, physical well-being, but equally acknowledging the fact that it's a love-hate relationship. Some days we love it, some days we really hate it and never want to do it again, but we still keep coming back to train jiu-jitsu, so it can't be that bad.
No, exactly.
Ellie, do you have anything else to share? Because I know you're looking to raise some money for a charity because you're doing the London Marathon. Please feel free to do a shout out and maybe share a little bit of that.
So I'm running the London Marathon for a charity called Suicide & Co. So that's a charity very close to my heart. They provide specialist counselling for those that have been bereaved by a suicide loss. So I lost a member of my family. Oh, sorry, I could get upset. I lost a member of my family to suicide. It was 4 years ago now. And actually, families don't get a huge amount of support after such a loss. So the charity provides specialist counselling for those bereaved by suicide, because what they also see is the incident of those that have been bereaved. It could be a really, a friend, a family member. Suicide rates are actually much higher amongst those people as well. So it provides real specialist support for people. And so I'm fundraising for them. They're an awesome charity, and that's why I'm doing I wouldn't necessarily do a marathon out of choice, I'm going to be honest. But
come on, it sounds like a hard thing. You're up for hard things.
I'm up for hard things, but it's a charity that means a lot to me, and I saw the opportunity and decided to go with it. It probably will be a one and done when it comes to long distance running. I'm not quite sure I'm a marathoner, but we will see.
You never know. You never know. It sounds like a fantastic charity to support. And I know so many of us in the Jiu-Jitsu community support so many different charities. But it really does sound like a heartfelt, something close to your family, charity to support. So I will put the link in the show notes. Please go and support Ellie. And if you're in London on the London Marathon Day, you're not. I'm assuming you're not going to be doing another hard thing and wearing a silly costume,
I'm
or
not
are
doing
you?
anything. No, no. I do train with someone, and a little shout out to him because he's also doing the marathon, who is running the marathon, attempting to do a world record,
Oh
knitting
wow!
the longest scarf whilst running a marathon. Now, to me, that really is crazy. I'm just surviving in my shorts and t-shirt, nothing dramatic.
I love it. I love it. Ellie, thank you so much for sharing a part of your story and your journey. I wish you all the success in the London Marathon. I will be cheering you on virtually, and admiring how tenacious you are in attempting and completing the London Marathon, because that's exactly what's going to happen. And you're going to raise a fantastic amount for Suicide and Co. So thank you so much for what you're doing. Thank you so much also for coaching a women's class. And I think if any women out there get the opportunity to coach women's classes, it sounds like they should do it.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh.
Yeah, let's get more women doing it.
That's good. We'll have to explain what jiu-jitsu is first, though, Ellie.
Yeah.
Me and you can discuss how we market what jiu-jitsu is to women in their 40s and 50s after we finish recording. Ellie, how can people follow this incredible journey of yours?
So I'm on Instagram. My Instagram is Ellie Aussie 81. Aussie with Z's, I believe.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can follow me there. And yeah, that's it really.
Amazing. Well, I look forward to meeting you in person. I am over in your part of the country a little bit later in the year. But it's been fantastic chatting with you. Thank you so much, Ellie.
Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. If you've got this far, thank you so much for listening. Please let me know who you'd like to see on the show next. And as always, thanks again for listening. Catch you on the next episode of the Jiu Jitsu Lou podcast.